Okay. So, are you able to see my screen or?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Great. So till where we have been uh, seen so far as like we have done the parameterization correlation and we ran the script and we were able to do all the things, right? Apart from that, transaction points, unwanted request commenting, all those things we have done, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now, what we can do is like we will see how we can add this text per session. Like 1 second. So these are the things we have to cover, right? So for parameterization, correlation, script recording is done. So important plugins almost we are done. I'll tell you how some other few other plugins which can be configured. So now, so as part of any scripting, there are few best practices that we have to do. So whatever I am following are some of the best practices which are followed in the industry in presently. So what I will do is adding the text check. In text session is nothing but text check. So the purpose of this text check is equal is like we normally when we run the script for one user or one iteration or multiple iterations, it will be working fine when during the load test, but you may not know like which request the a particular user is executing or which call the user is executing, whether it is properly loading or he's getting the proper response. That is the reason we configure the text check to make sure that during the load test, if the page doesn't load properly or if this particular text check is not able to say similar to Selenium, we have locators like what do you call like locating the username, password field, and if the locators fail because of there is some change in the code or something. Similarly, here we have text check, which will help us to know whether the user is properly executing all the pages or all the calls properly. So what we can do is just run it for one iteration so that we can. Okay. So we have executed for one iteration. There are 4 transactions, so we can see it. So each transaction, it is not necessary that you have to configure. For all the calls inside one transaction, do we have to configure the text check? It is not necessary. For any one call which is important, for that call alone, you can configure the text check. So that it is not creating overload to the system during the load test. So we normally have to create a minimum of one text check per transaction or one per page. So it is not mandatory that you have to configure for all the calls. You have to configure the text check. It is only required to configure one text check for one transaction, which is very what to say like which is important. If you miss it, then you may not be sure during the load test whether it is properly executing or not. Okay, so here we can go with this title Blaze demo. This is the text check we can add here. So how we configure the text check is right clicking on this http html request, right click, and we have Assertion. Then we have text check. Response assertion, we have many other assertions. Just a minute. Duration assertion, expert, size assertion, response assertion. Okay, so we normally go with the response assertion to make sure that whatever is written in the response is proper or not by comparing with a simple text. that we are giving here, that with text will be checked in the response, and if it is matches, the request will pass and it will move to the next transaction. If it does not, it will fail. So I'll show you how it works. Just a minute. So here, what you are giving is like the name of the text check. You can give it as when any name of your choice. This doesn't matter at all. Just for our understanding, I have given as here the title is Blaze Demo. The same name I have given here. So I'm giving the comments as to make an understanding that we have correlation, parameterization, then text check to make sure it for if my script is checked from by a different person, he should be able to understand the purpose of this plugin. So that is the reason I'm giving as text check. So whether this particular response or this text is appearing in the main response only or main response and sub responses. Say like you have a call where 8 after 8, if there is 80, 81, 82, 83, and if the value is coming in 81, 82 or 83, then we will select this main sample and subsample. If it is appearing only the main sample, then we will only give this main sample alone. Okay. So so what we are checking is from the response of the page, it is only the text we are checking. So it is going to be the text response, and what we are checking inside the page, whether it contains this particular text or a word, Blaze demo. So now I'll just execute it and show to you how it works. So you can see whether it is if it is getting fast, then our assertion is correct. If it is not getting fast, if it fails, I'll also show you the fail scenario as well. Just a minute. I'll run it for one iteration now. Okay. So now you can see that Blaze demo, there is no errors. So which means our text assertion is proper. So how you can ask me like in all the cases whether it will pass or not. Say like I'm giving as Vignesh. So Vignesh is not in our page. So let's check whether it will pass or not. See now the text will it will show as the assertion failure assertion because this expected Vignesh was not found in the page, so it will fail. So now are you clear or hello?
Yeah, Muthu. Like, yes, the understanding wise, yes, we are clear.
Fine. Okay. So this is for one transaction, and similarly for other transactions also we have to do. Just a minute. I'll run it once again. So now the text has been changed. You can see a Blaze demo that now you can see all are passing. Okay. Now similarly for other transactions, other requests inside the transactions also we have to give this text check. So what you'll do is just copy it. You can just copy this, Control C, and just paste it, Control V. So it will get pasted, and you can change the name here. What is it we are giving here is Blaze demo. Normally the text which is easily visible we will select. Either we can go with title. These are all something code that we normally don't go ahead with. Something similar which is very unique from the page that we select. So this is the title of the page, Blaze demo reserve. So similarly, if you find in real-time application, you can go ahead with that. So Blaze demo reserve, then followed by here what is name is this one. and followed by pattern. Okay. Similarly, for other transactions also we will do it. So Blaze demo purchase, and now this one is I have to purchase, right? 12, 12th call this one. So now I have done the paste. I'll do this one. Then followed by the last transaction, flight confirmation. So Blaze demo confirmation. Here I'll do this one is just copy this text assertion and paste it here, and then change the name and value. That's it. Here is then followed by X. So now we have given the text assertion. For all the transactions. So in each transaction, you can see that minimum. Minimum is it is a best practice to give one, but in some cases where you find like if required, we can go ahead with multiple. But it is suggested best practice to go ahead with one. That is fine. So here we are giving the text assertions for the first transaction. Then second transaction we are giving it here reserve.php. For the third transaction, we are giving it here on the purchase.php. Fourth transaction confirmation page, we are giving it here. Okay. So now I'm just after updating the script, I'm just executing it just with one user, one iteration to see whether it is working properly or not. Okay. So we have placed the text assertions and all the calls have successfully passed and it is working fine. Okay. So does anyone has any queries? Regarding this text check or assertion?
No, Muthu, me and Jeline are planning to do on the next week, hands-on, so that at that time, if we face any difficulties, then we'll get back to you, Muthu.
Sure. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So our text assertion is done, and then what we have here is like recording controller, transaction controller is done. Important plugin. Okay, think time and pacing. Okay, I'll explain you how we can do this one. So think time and pacing are very important part of our load testing. Without think time and pacing, we can't execute this. We can't perform the load test because the purpose of the think time and load testing is. I'll give you a simple example. Like you are launching Gmail or HDFC net banking web page. So when you search for this or launch this HDFC net banking, you wait for some 1 or 2 seconds before it gets launched. So this time is called as think time. The waiting time between one action and the other action by a user is called think time. So am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So pacing is something like, so one user does all these actions, say like 4 actions in a, we have as a use case, we have 4 actions, like 4 transactions. So after completing all the 4 transactions, say like I have to wait for some time before performing the next, once again, before I'm starting the action from the first. The reason why we are going for pacing is like, say like we are doing a load test or stress test to the server backend system. So we can't continuously hit the server or bombard the server, so that it will have a what you call like a, completely different behavior. It will bring the server down if we continuously hit the application. So that is the reason we give the think time and pacing in the script to populate the actual load which the server will expect during the peak time, and that is how we will be able to measure the response time from the application. So regarding the think time and pacing, are you clear now, or
It's pacing, right, Muthu? Pacing.
Sorry, pacing.
What's it?
Yeah,
Pacing.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
What is it?
Maybe no problem. If you could share that document also, that would be fine.
Time and pacing. Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah.
Okay. So think time and pacing. Think time is normally given between the transactions. Pacing is given at the end of the use case or the complete script, so that so say like we have 100 users. 100 users will not log in at the same time, but 100 users will be performing different transactions at the same time.
Yes.
Because while logging into the system itself, I will specify like one user 5 seconds or something. So all the users will not get into the system at the same time. Say like say like if I have 100 users, I'll give 500 seconds. Okay, loop count I don't need, because when I'm going to run a load test, I'll specify 1 hour, 3600 seconds. So for this 1 hour, 500 seconds, in this 500 seconds, all the 100 users will get into the system. Okay.
Okay.
So after this 500 seconds, you can see all the 100 users, accessing the system, but not all the 100 users will be performing launching the applications, or from and to city will be selected, and selecting the best flight. They all will do different transactions. Say like 25 users will do this transaction, 25 users will do this transaction, but 25 users will do this transaction and 25 users will do this transaction. But there will be load in the system. Each user will do a different action at the same time, even though they are accessing the same use case.
Yes.
Okay. So this is an example. The reason for pacing is like, in order to give the load properly to the system and to make sure that the system doesn't go down. Also, system is capable enough to handle such a load, and we are able to measure proper response time. That's the reason we go for think time and pacing. Without think time and pacing, if you run the script or if you perform the load test, you will not be able to measure the actual performance from the system. It is like indirectly you are stressing the system and bringing it down, like kind of scenario. Say like, I will give you an example. Say like, I am trying to it's like a hacker trying to continuously hit the system to bring the system down. You can think of in that way, but that is not our motive, or that is not our intention. It is only to load test the system and to measure the performance of the system, and also to see whether whatever the metrics which is given by the client, say like response time or users or hit, whatever that is, which is meeting the SLA, or which is which is within the SLA, or it is deviating from the SLA also. Just to make sure that before going to production, the system is good enough with the current capacity and is able to handle the relevant load from the end user perspective. Okay, so that is the thing. Yes, this is one, and this is okay. Okay, text check. Think time. The how we can configure the think time is, normally we don't configure think time for. I will show how I have done the configuration of think time for the applications which I have performance tested in Appium. This is one simple example what we are doing. Finally, I will showcase how, or I will share the script as well, how I have done it for other projects or other applications. Okay, so here you can see like a timer. You can right click on this transaction controller, and you have timer, you have constant timer. Okay, so the purpose of this constant timer is, once after you know what is the think time, I can name it as think time, and here it is given in milliseconds, like 1 second equal to 1000 milliseconds. So if I have to give 3 seconds, then I have to specify 3 milliseconds. Normally for any web application, we normally specify 1 to 3 seconds, not more than that. In some rare cases where the application is slow in responding, we may go beyond that as well. But normally in Appium, I have not given more than this. because think time is normally used for within the transaction. So it would be normally within 1 to 3 only. Okay. So you can give it either you can specify it below this transaction, or at the end of the transaction. No issues. So normally I specify it at the end of the transaction, because as soon as the transaction gets executed, it will wait for 3 seconds before proceeding with the next transaction. Okay. So this for this, and so normally for login and logout, we don't give the think time. Launch page, we give the think time, because login and logout doesn't need the think time. Only the action part we will iterate multiple times. Say like you have login and logout, and you have 100 users. Okay, 100 users will log in and log out only once, and they will do the action for the 1 hour duration. Say like launch and other things, they will do continuously. But log in and log out, they will do only once. Log in during the launch, during the initiation time, they will log in once, all the 100 users. And once all the actions are completed, for the duration 1 hour, they will do the log out. Okay. Okay. So this is think time. So pacing, what we normally do is we have the option called flow control action. Config element, you have the option of 1 second. Where is it? Here it is, flow control action. So this is for pacing. So normally, what we do is just to add it. We can add it to this thread group itself. Okay. Okay, so why I'm adding to the thread group is thread group consists of all the 4 transactions, and once after the user executes all these 4 transactions, he will wait for such a time. Say like I'm giving us pacing just to for understanding. This is pause time. So current thread. Okay. Pause. So here I can give the duration as 3 seconds. When I'm giving you an example, it can be like for the script based upon the number of transactions which we will perform, when pacing will vary. Think time will be normally 1 to 3 seconds, but pacing can go higher also or even less also, depends upon the situation. So normally we will be what we do is pacing. Whichever user comes to the end will wait. Current thread here means whichever user who comes to the end will wait for 3 seconds before performing the next action. Okay, so how we can verify that is just an example I will show. 1 second, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So what I will do is just run the script for multiple users so that you will have an understanding. Say I'm going to execute for three users and 1 iteration, which is each user will run for 1 iteration. So now you can see how each user will wait. Say like if the pacing is given less, you will not be able to understand. I'll give a little more, like 15 seconds or something. So you can see how each user will wait before he is performing the next action. So here I'll go ahead and just run it. That's it. So you can see 3 users. All the 3 are here. Iteration first user. So booking flight is done. So after this, before they stop, they are waiting for 15 seconds. You can see what we have given is 15 seconds. So they will wait for 15 seconds. All the three users will wait for 15 seconds, and then this will end. See, did you get it or hello?
Yes, Mr. I'm able to
Yeah,
get it.
Okay. So this is how the think time and pacing components work inside the Jmeter script. So that is the thing, and so if you are not able to get it, just I'll make sure one more iteration. I'll show you like three users, two iteration. Now it will be better. So like if I run it, so now it is waiting. You can see before it starts the next iteration, it is waiting for 15 seconds. All the three users, then it will start the next iteration. So now you can see the three users are executing its second iteration. So in the booking the flight, transaction, they will wait for say like 5 seconds or 15 seconds, whichever we have given. Then they will proceed. Then they will stop the action. Yeah, it is done. 1 second. Give me 2 minutes. I will be back. Yeah. Sorry.
Sure, Matu.
Yeah, sorry guys. Okay. So where were we? Hello.
Yeah, Muthu.
No, okay. Prasanna Sudha. Okay. So we have seen like text check and followed by think time and paging we have seen, and how it works also we have seen. So yeah. Now I'll just go ahead with the other topic. It is like view results tree. That is what we are checking here. View results tree is nothing but just it will show you the script during when you run the script after recording. It will show you after doing your customization, all those things. It will show you whether your script is passing or it is failing. From here, you can see for one user, one iteration, whether it is running successfully or not. Okay. So next is simple data writer. Okay, so here the purpose of the simple data writer is to make sure that whether when you run a load test, whether it is I mean we can view the during the load test also we can see the logs, the graphical representation of the logs, but there will be some delay. Normally it is not suggested that you view you are allowed, I mean to say like the logs you can read and write the log, same log at the same time. It will have a deadlock kind of situation. So what we normally do is we use a plugin called Simple Data Writer, which is a listener as well. You can see it here. What it does is normally you give the path of the file and store it with the .jtl extension. It will help you to store the load test result or a script. During the load test, whatever the log is getting generated, it gets stored in the .jtl format. I'll show you an example. Just a moment. Here I'll give this path. Okay. So now here, what I'll do is sample test dot. This normally saves in .csv or whichever format we want. I'll prefer .jtl, so I'll just save it. 1 second. Okay. By default, we can have both the options enabled. It will store all these details in the log files. If you want, we can enable all the checkboxes, but it is not suggested because it will create more load into the log. I mean to say like it will generate more logs and which will consume more memory. Obviously, it will have impact during the load test. And sometimes if the memory configured in the Jmeter is less, it will also make sure that Jmeter gets crashed during the load test. That is the reason we select only the limited number of components which are required, which needs to be used for in saving the logs, or these are the parameters which will be loaded into the logs. I mean, based upon these informations will be gathered during the load test and updated in the log files. Yeah, that is what. So now I will just do a run and it will just save the log. Just a minute. Say like simply we'll do with 3 user 3 iteration here. Now there is no log here. I'll make sure sample test.html. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll just run it. Let's see whether the log is getting created. See, sample test.jtl is created. So here also you can see the the logs, but it is good to go ahead with the logs only during the validation or for a smoke test purpose with minimal number of users. When you go ahead with the load test, it is suggested that you have only limited number of listeners enabled in your script. This will help you to have less load because of less memory consumption, because listener plugins will consume more memory. This view results tree is a listener and simple data result writer is a listener. So normally during the load test, we will disable this plugin or remove this plugin. Only we will have a simple data writer, which will store the errors and success log. So now you can see this, right? I mean, this file name path where the log is getting stored. So now if you want to see like summary report or aggregate report for the same, we can add this plugin like listener. You have summary report, aggregate report. Just I'll show you. Okay. So what it does is normally the log where you have saved, you can just copy it and paste it here and just hit enter. So it will show you like which component has taken how much time and all. Okay. Also aggregate report, same way. So the main reason why we are going for summary report, aggregate report is you can see average, min, max. It does not have that much of information. So 90th percentile, 95th percentile, 99th percentile, these are main things. Normally we go with the aggregate report. So I think almost our test is about to end because 3 iterations we have given, right? 1 second, let me see. One is done. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test is done. Yeah. So now, I mean, I was loading the data before the actual test got completed. Now I'll just refresh it. You can see like it got updated. So that is the reason normally we don't suggest that during the load test, we normally check for the log, but after the load test gets over, we can see the results. So now you can see that, I mean, each component you are getting confused because of like launching page. Inside the launch page, I have 4 calls, and inside this from and to city, I have 1 call. But if you want to see like when transaction wise, then what we can do is just disable this generate parent sample. I think now we should be able to see. Now I have to run the test for once again. Then let's see. 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Don't start. It will ask always like whether you want to append with the existing log, or if you are trying to if you have not changed the name of your what you call the results file. I'll give it as sample test 1.jtl. Just see. I'll run it. This file sample test. What happened? Sample test. This one test. It is sample test. This is. Okay. So now we will see. So during the execution itself, it is getting data is getting populated. You can see because we have given the name of the file. From that file location, it is picking it up, and you can view this. But this is normally good practice for checking during when we are validating it for very less number of users. But during the load test, it is suggested that we have some monitoring tools or some other log monitoring which will help us to view the status. But normally the JTL file will be stored in this format. Like once normally it will be in 0 KB during the execution, but once after the test gets completed, you can see the total size of the file. Script will be with the extension .jmx. Okay. Still it is running. So we can see whether it is done or not. 1 second. 1, 2. How we can see that how many users we can we have executed the test? That is possible with only listener, like we have active threads over time. Just we select this and we update it here, so we will be able to see like with how many threads we have executed. Currently we have executed with 3 threads, and for how much duration? It is 48 seconds. That's it. So similarly we have other graphs like one second. We have bytes throughput. We have bits per second. We have response codes. We have response latencies over time. We have response times over time. Transactions per second. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. There is one more. Hits per second. Active threads, bytes throughput. Okay. Connect time. This is the one. Okay. So now just what we do is the part of this log file, we just copy and paste it in all the plugins, and we can see the graphs. So this is possible only after executing the Jmeter. Once after the Jmeter script is executed or the load test is completed, once the log is, .jtl log is updated in the directory where you have stored, then that JTL file is updated here to view all these contents. Okay, so you can see this is for codes. Response code, that whatever is written, 200 and 302 redirects and HTTP 200 hits per second. Normally the number of hits which is sent from the client Jmeter during the load. So response latencies you can see here. These are the calls which we have executed from the script and how it looks like. Response time over time, how the response time is. Response time for each call is represented in different color, and how the response time of each call is, and how over time, over the duration of 1 minute 48 seconds, how the response time of each call was. Transactions per second, like how many transactions were executed within this 1 minute 48 seconds. All those things you can see. We have 4 transactions. So 4 transactions is normally we can isolate them. See, not all the calls is required. There are few calls, there are few listeners where you don't need to have check all these components. Just uncheck all. Then what else you need is just these 4 transactions, whichever is launching the Blaze demo, booking the flight, then followed by what you have selection, the best flight, then followed by what you have from and to city, right? Okay. So totally there are 4 transactions. Launching the Blaze demo, then followed by from and to city, then followed by what we have booking the flight. Booking the flight is yes, it is, right? Okay, booking the flight, then launching the Blaze demo. Okay. From and to city. From and to city. Okay, second transaction, third selecting the best flight, fourth transaction of booking the flight. Okay, so now only these 4 transactions will be displayed in the graph. So you can see like now, so it is instead of being clumsy, based upon the graph, you can see like which are the components you want. You can select it and you can showcase only those components around. Either you want response time for individual components, or you want the response time for the transaction alone. Uncheck all. If you want only the response time for the transaction, you can only enable the transaction alone, and you can just see how it looks like. Okay. That is done. And what else is we have? Okay, test executing in GUI mode, we just saw. Non-GUI, I will explain you, I mean, both I'll explain you tomorrow. Folder structure, I have already explained. If not, also I will explain tomorrow. Okay, I think probably by tomorrow we can complete all, I mean, except this part. Rest all I think I can complete. So far, I mean, do you have any queries? Team?
Muthu, you said about summary report and aggregate report, right? So why do we have separate reports? What's the difference?
Yeah, see, for say like a summary report has min, max, standard deviation, error percentage, and there are clients who ask for this 90th percentage. Say like if you have 10 calls, and out of this 10 call, each call have different response time, and say like so out of this 10 calls, can you check for the ninth call or ninth from, if you list from top to bottom, ninth call performance I need to know. That is what the 90th percentile is. So 95th means it is like I mean, out of 10 calls it's going to be 9.5. 99th is going to be 9.9. I just giving you an example. But a summary is just like a min, max, and average response time. Average response time normally we don't share, but it's just for reference alone. Because if you have 10 calls, average of 10 calls, it will be very less. But whereas if you see the ninth call maybe response time may be high. Say like here it is 2.702, whereas individually when you see it is 0.6 0.6 seconds. 0.6 seconds is very less. When you combine it, it's going to be high. Same way, summary report, I mean, for each client, it's based upon the client needs, we normally share. But summary report is normally has very less information. Aggregate report has more information. So that is the reason we just check it for comparison alone, nothing else. Normally, we pull the data from summary report and share it with the team.
Okay.
I mean to say like aggregate report instead of summary. I mean instead of aggregate, I said summary. We normally pull it from aggregate report and share it with the client.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I mean, so any other queries, team? Yeah. Okay, Jelena. Okay, Prasanna. So far, I mean, we have covered a few topics. So we'll close this session for today. I mean, I'll have this recording. I'll stop this recording for now. Stop recording. Okay.